Gani, all you, Bani Gani to all you that have zoomed into this program. We're going to get right into it. This is Professor Rahh, Professor Emeritus, California State University of Long Beach, and retired professor from Compton Community College, and along with co-host historian Joe Hembrick. And we are about to venture into the revolutionary school culture, a book and an educational process that my son, Amin Mandela Rahh, created, and he published the book that was #1 on Amazon when it first came out. And he's a part of a network, a national network of people that, principals and educators that are trying to revolutionize public schools in urban areas to make them more meaningful and beneficial to the students that attend them, with different approaches to teaching. As well as they just had a conference this past this year, and over 400 people via a podcast attended that conference on revolutionary school and restorative justice. And so we're proud to have him. We want to thank Brother Rashaki and the Community Education Network for being the platform by which Conscious Corner can present its views and its perspectives of Black truth as we try to correct the maulers, the distorters, and the corruptors of the truth. So you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, because today you ain't gonna get nothing but truth. And we can look in your face and see that you need the truth if you ever put your picture on the Zoom. So anyway, without further delay, we're gonna get started. Amin, would you just tell us a little bit about the revolutionary school culture concept and the 6 principles of unlocking your school hidden treasures?
Absolutely. First, before we even talk about that, I want to just thank my father, the legendary himself, Professor Amin Rahh, and the family for allowing me to be here. All the hosts and the co-hosts, and Rigo, thank you for allowing the space for this opportunity to just talk around how we could provide education. Like my father, growing up in the Rahh household, one thing that is education is elevation. And that's one thing that we at my school and revolutionizing the school experience for young people is all about. It's how we can provide sacred knowledge for our young people so they can feel liberated, so they can be provided with critical hope, and so they can also pour that back into their networks and have that community that's engaged with empowerment. So the whole book came under—
Just a minute, before you start,
yeah.
Tell them about your journey to get to be a principal first.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I started off as a paraprofessional, a teacher assistant at a non-public school. It was a level 12 facility, and that school, that environment was the last step before students either went to a hospital placement or juvenile detention center. And at that space, that's where I really developed my love for just helping young people that may have been faced with challenges or obstacles. So I was a teacher assistant for about 2 years. I started off at the age of 18, being a teacher assistant. Then I quickly became a substitute teacher at the age of 20, did that for a few months. And then I landed my first job at Markham Middle School in Watts, right? And my sister and I, we worked there as partner teachers. And I was a classroom teacher for about 5 years before I was promoted to be the dean of academic success at the school site. Did that for about a year. And then I became a district-wide restorative justice coordinator. I trained principals, and I trained principals not only in the district, but across the nation in restorative practices. Then I became an assistant principal, and I was assistant principal around 27. Then I did that for about a year and a half, where then I wrote a proposal that was an opening for a school back in Watts. And the superintendent at the time said, there's no other person that we would think is better for this job than you. And I was selected to be the founding principal of University Pathways Public Service Academy at the age of 29. And now we're 4 years in, and we just had our first graduating class, which upholded a 100% graduation rate. 65% of those students were eligible for UC and CSUs, which we're working on to get higher. And we had 0 suspensions within the 4 years. And, you know, that's kind of like the journey.
And this was all with LA Unified School District.
All with that, all with the LA Unified.
Except for the first job, yeah.
Except for the first job, yeah, absolutely. So,
okay.
You ready for me to go in? I can go into that. So now opening the school and through my journey from being a teacher assistant to now, is all that this principle, these frameworks, these principles and frameworks were kind of developed. And through my experience, because I was that one kid, my father could tell you that, you know, although I was getting lectures, although I came from a strong family household, I still struggled with navigating the system, navigating K through 12, because I didn't see the relevance in it. My father was giving me education and providing me with sacred knowledge, but that necessarily, I didn't see that and I didn't feel that in my experience at school. So I was living in these two different worlds. And I'm like, whoa, why am I learning this? And I didn't see the connection. So that experience has helped me as an educator to connect the dots for young people. Like my father always says to us, like the primary source of education is in the household. And one thing that about the school is for those who struggle with the household of the education that may not is evident in the household, that's what we try to create our school to be. A household for young people to be provided with the sacred knowledge so they can now go and do the productive things in the world. So these 6 principles is around being mission driven, being village driven, being community driven, and being empowered and economically understanding of the financials of this world. So those concepts has helped us build a school awareness and a school culture that is really phenomenal. We call our school the happiest place in LAUSD because we believe that if you feel good, you look good, you play good. And that's what Deion Sanders says. So we think about that in the classroom. When you come to school and you feel good, more than likely you can perform better and pursue your dreams.
Well, go over the principles of restorative justice in history and and elaborate a little bit more on those principles and what they mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So I first start off with restorative practices. It was funny. I was speaking with Rigo earlier today, and the whole point of restorative practices is to restore, right? We want to restore and repair the harm that has taken place, and that's done with curriculum, that's done with a culture, that's done with justice, that's done with all elements of school. So first thing when it comes to restorative practices is you must be some prerequisites. You must be self-aware. You must understand yourself in context of the world. You must understand your philosophy, what you believe. And if you deeply reflect on like, what do you truly believe? You have to ask yourself, do you believe in punitive decision-making? Or do you believe in a process that human beings can actually repair and reflect and learn? I'll give a prime example. My father in my 33 years of living has never put his hands on me, right? But he's always spoke to me. He's always had me reflect. He's always pushed and challenged me for my evolution to take place. Versus someone who's like, hey, yo, I'm just going to go in short and I'm going to just whip my kids, right? I learned more and I had deep reflection that was even more of a process for me when I had a lecture from my father, versus having a 30-second like whooping or something like that from my mom, right? So the same process in our school is we want to be able to have a process for young people to have so they can reflect, so they can learn. And in order to do that, first we must build a community around that. So in our household, similar, we build a community around having conversations. We build a community around listening. We build a community around valuing each other's space and valuing each other's mission. So similar to our school, we create a value system. We have 5 values. One is you respect. The next is you love. The next is you work hard. The next is you follow through. And the last, you get results. The biggest thing before respect is, hold on, let me, so the first core value is respect. So we want our young people to respect the school, but respect themselves. When they walk on the campus, they're a representation of what they're putting out into the world. One of the things that we say to our young people is what you feed yourself when it comes to information is the food that you provide for the world. So if you're coming in and you're giving a perception and you're speaking a certain way and you're having this negative mindset, that's what you're going to continue. So we want to make sure that we put ourselves in a really respectful way. We put ourselves in a way that we understand the values. We understand what our expectations are. The next is you love. We want an environment where we loved each other. We believe that it takes a village to raise and educate young people. So in order for that village to exist, it needs to have love that it was included in it. Next is we wanted students to work hard. My father always tell me, are you hardly working? Are you working hard? Or are you hardly working? Right? And we want people to work hard, not hardly work. Then we want students to follow through. Young people today, we want them to say what they mean and mean what they say. If you say you're going to be here at 7:00, yeah, be here at 7:00. So we wanted people to follow through what they're saying. And then last, we want people to get results. All this is great. Restorative, all this is great, but the evidence of learning is through application. So like my father provided me knowledge, the evidence of learning for me was how do I apply it? And we wanted young people to apply that. And how we implemented restorative justice practices is we built a community through a cascade model. The cascade model is macro to micro. So at our school, we have what's called family. Family is a school-wide assembly where we come together every Monday, and it's all about inspiration. It's all around activation. And it's all about empowerment. We bring guest speakers in. We'll have activities, and students are breaking bread and connecting with each other. And student-to-student relationships are being built school-wide. Student-to-teacher relationships are being built school-wide. And principal to the entire school relationship is being built school-wide every Monday. So that's the first foundational when it comes to building restorative practices at your school. The next is then we go to a level called kinship. Kinship is an advisory, or some schools have it as a homeroom, but we revolutionized it, and we have our teachers dive into what we call self-actualization for our young people. We go through a process, a 4-year curriculum, where we want young people to know themselves in context to the world. Typically, when kids leave high school, you'll ask them what they learned. They learned everything in isolation. You learn math, you learn English, you learn history, but it's all in isolation. At our school, we link it all together, because and that's what's important, and that's what brings relevance. So in kinship, they go through a 4-year curriculum with a teacher, with knowing themselves in context to the world, and it's dealt with social emotional learning, enrich-based model. So they're able to go and learn about the music studio. They're able to go and start their own business in kinship. They're able to go dance. They're able to go to theater. They're able to do whatever they are passionate about during this time. So that's that model. Then we develop what's called a house system. So if you see, we're building up on it. We had family, kinship, then we have our house system, which is put up in 4 houses. One house is 4 elements we wanted to encourage young people with. One was we wanted young people to be advocates. We want them to speak up and speak out around things that they love, right? So we have the house of advocacy. Then we wanted young people to be courageous. So we developed the house of courage. We want them to stand for something so they won't fall for anything. Next, we wanted them to build friendships, true friendships, because we believe that your network can impact your net worth. So if they build friendships that are long lasting, that will help them get through the struggles of life. So we have the house of friendship. And then last, we have the house of hustle, which is the house of motivation. We wanted students to be motivated in what they do. And then we drive and we gamify education through our house system, where students compete with their GPA, with their attendance, with community and civic engagement. And these layers are the foundations of restorative practices. So when something does happen on our campus, now we can repair it back to our structures of family, kinship, and a house system. So that's like an elevator speech of how we deliver restorative practices at our school site, and put those elements. And that is actually principle 3 in our book when it comes to, actually principle 4 in our book when it comes to building an aspirational environment.
Okay. What inspired you to write this revolutionary school culture? And what do you mean by revolutionary school culture?
Yeah. So the way it inspired me to write the book was, I felt that there was a cultural suppression when it comes to young people in school. And what I mean by cultural suppression, and culturally suppressed educators, especially Black male educators that walk, talk, and come from where I come from. I wanted people to understand that, yo, we first, as a Black male principal, I can be an author and I could put my thoughts on paper and publish a book, and for people to really find value from the book. So that was one thing. Another thing was I wanted to write a book for that one educator that can possibly see themselves in me, that can connect and be inspired and be empowered. One book that changed my life was The Alchemist, and it's a story about Santiago finding his hidden treasure. And that's, if you see the book, it says Revolutionary School Culture, the 6 principles of unlocking your school's hidden treasure. And the hidden treasure is to connect it back to The Alchemist and the story of Santiago. Another step was I seen there's a disconnect between what many schools do traditionally. Traditionally, on a federal level, when it comes to secondary, there's hyper accountability. And what hyper accountability is the federal government or state legislation will push down new policies for standardized tests. These standardized tests, in many schools, comes with hyper accountability for different metrics, for different ways where they have to follow benchmarks to try to get to the SAT or in high school, the 11th grade test, specifically out here in California. Well, this hyper accountability leads to hyper exhaustion when it comes to teachers and leaders, because they're so focused on the accountability metrics that the state or the federal levels are having. They're not putting any kind of creative work into the curriculum. They're not thinking about the cultural relevance. They're not thinking about the innovative strategies. They're thinking outside the box. They're moving past trauma-informed practices. They're moving past social emotional learning because they're so focused, and you have teachers now exhausted, and now you're seeing kids frustrated, teachers frustrated, families frustrated, and still the test scores are not hitting any metrics, right? So these things, these practices of hyper accountability and hyper exhaustion happens because it's hyper standardization. So the revolutionary school culture is when you focus on what matters and you measure what matters, which is each young person being a human being, each young person finding their passion, finding their purpose, and being supported. All the other stuff will take care of itself. So revolutionary school culture is the counter narrative to the way of student success. Most people think through theory that, okay, if we have these policies and we hold people accountable for these policies, and these policies are connected to standardization, standardized tests, then we should have success. Well, in California specifically, over the last 20 years, that's been the focus, and the achievement gap that people look at has actually widened. So that means that there's really a disconnect with that practice. So revolutionary school culture is a counter argument, a counter narrative for school leaders, policymakers, for them to see and understand that if you focus on love, if you focus on culture, if you focus on young people as a whole and let them be their authentic self, then you will see reading go up. You will see math go up because they're provided with critical hope.
Okay, another quick couple questions is, tell them about, is that OSG and y'all
OSG.
network of principals? What OSG mean, and about the various other principals y'all network with?
Yeah, so I'm part of an organization called OSG, which means Off School Grounds. Off School Grounds is a coalition of Black principals across the nation. We're actually moving internationally now, but across the nation, from New Jersey to Florida to Texas, South Carolina, California, all across the nation of Black principals coming together collectively to revolutionize education. Myself, with the founder, Dennis McKeezy, has revolutionized education with a collaboration of over 90 principals right now across the nation that is doing this work, from lights on programs happening in New Jersey and all across the nation, where schools are being open from 6 to 11 p.m. to keep kids off the streets. Because if we look at many of our neighborhoods, specifically if we just look at Compton and Newark, New Jersey are similar in many ways, because they are stripped of enrichment. They are stripped of opportunities for young people to just be kids, right? And now you see an influx of violence, you see an influx of trauma, you see an influx of suicidal ideation. So our coalition is helping with taking care of the needs for young people so they can thrive in the school. And OSG is doing that every week. We meet Thursdays to collaborate on resources that we can support each other with doing this work, because this work is hard.
What about Dane Dash? What role did he play in your school?
Yeah, so Dame
Tell
Dash.
me who Dane Dash is.
Yeah, so Dame Dash was the founder of Rockefeller Records with Jay-Z when they were hitting all-time records, and they was big in the culture of hip-hop. And Dame Dash now, he's still an entrepreneur. He's still doing great things when it comes to music, but he's found a newfound love with helping young people and helping schools. He's partnered us up with Beyond Meat, in which during the pandemic, we serviced over 200 kids with Beyond Meat burgers, specifically from the sponsorship of Dame Dash and the connection of that. We were able to deliver Beyond burgers to schools. He's also working to bring a music program to my school. He's already put a music program in a New Jersey high school already. And he's just a person that's like, his words directly is, I want you to exploit me for my resources. Anything I can do to help schools and Black principals, use me as a vessel. And his word has been his bond. He's been absolutely supportive on this mission.
Tell them about the Clippers donation to your school.
Yeah, so our first year, when we opened the school, being our founding year, I was able to connect with a nonprofit organization called Think Watts with a rapper named Styx. And he wasn't ever exposed to a young Black male principal. So he came to visit the school. And he was like, wow, this is amazing, right? This I've never seen anything like this. I want to bring some resources here. Let's set up some meetings. And the first resource that he brought, we set up a meeting with the Los Angeles Clippers. And the Los Angeles Clippers came to Watts, the CEO of the Los Angeles Clippers, not the owner, but the CEO, president of the Los Angeles Clippers. She came down. She loved the opportunity. We partnered, and they brought a new basketball court, 16 outdoor gym basketball courts, an indoor gymnasium, a garden, new paved cement. It was literally over $200,000 worth of work that they did in literally less than 2 weeks. It was phenomenal. They was working 24 hours to get it done. And then after that, we got a partnership with Planet Fitness, and Planet Fitness came in and gave us an entire new weight room that was over $75,000 worth of new equipment, free of charge, because they believed in the work that we were doing. And then after that, the Bank of California came in and offered us a free financial literacy program, in which we're working and collaborating with them to try to bring right now. We got to revisit it, but we're trying to open up a charter. We're trying to charter our own credit union at our school site to provide young people with financial literacy, but an opportunity to be able to work for the credit union and provide customer service and just learn the business of banking.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Rashiki? What about you, Doctor?
Yeah, I have one question. In your opinion, school sounds great, man. In your opinion, how many more schools like yours will need to be built to service all African-American kids nationwide?
I'm a firm believer that, I couldn't quantify it in numbers. I would say that it's a philosophy. I believe that schools could do this now, if you are willing, and that's the purpose of the book is, where Black students are at. There's a level of anti-Blackness that exists all over the world, all over the diaspora, anti-Blackness, and that's why the philosophy must change. Even amongst Black leaders, the philosophy must change to understand how to measure. Because, for example, a lot of times you will get Black principals leading schools, and their first thing is to compare their students with their white counterparts, right? At our school, we want our students to run their race. We treat it like track, right? We want them to, if you ever know about track, it's not about who's on the left, it's not about who's on the right. You're racing against your best time. And if you beat your best time, you're cool with that. And we want young people to do that. So to answer your question, you know, I couldn't quantify it to a school. Hey, these are the amount of schools. But I would say this: every community where there are Black students and Black families, there should be an independent, self-sufficient school, and that's focused curriculum centered on the African diaspora. And I would say that, and that could be where and I haven't put the cities off of how many Black communities we have, but I would say that.
Well, how about this? Well, the philosophy you just stated,
Mhm.
to adopt that philosophy, why wouldn't other schools that cater mostly to Blacks adopt that philosophy if yours is so successful? Why
Because
wouldn't they?
it's with risk. You know, when you try something that's a little different. So, for example, one of the prime factors in the book, right, is typically by theory, you know, if you're looking at schools' data, most schools look at their data and they're looking like, hey man, we got a reading problem, we got a literacy problem. So typically you're like, all right, I need to go and put more intervention for reading, more intervention for reading, more intervention for math. So they're doing double blocks with math, double blocks with reading, and they're not getting the results. And that's 80% of their problems. What we're suggesting is we need to focus on the other things, meaning that the reason why kids are not being successful is not because they can't read, is because it's a love, it's a person, it's a culture thing. And so we got to focus on the philosophy and the culture, and that will change. So to answer your question, it's hard because of people fight that resisting reality. The existing reality is, man, this is what I've been told in my leadership program and my teaching programs, and they're not approaching it with a metacognitive type of approach when it comes to what is really the problem, what's the root of the issue. And a lot of times, you know, they're fighting themselves off of their authentic selves when it comes to like this work. And even within my school, I would even, you know, my school is a good school, no doubt. My school is a good school, but there's still limitations within, like even within a structured district, right? When it comes to, you know, curriculum, when it comes to standardization. So it's definitely complex. It's not easy. Some of my practices are universal, but I'm a firm believer that each school community has to have some nuanced creativity to address the needs of that specific community. That makes sense.
Any other questions? Rashaki?
Yeah, man, I appreciate all your efforts, man. Seem like you're doing an excellent job. Matter of fact, you are, and keep it up. And I'm in much support of the philosophy that you got going. Now, I started reading the book, and I always take notes in the book. So, I mean, from the book. So I want you to respond to this because I thought this was excellent. Systems are designed to get the results that they get.
Yep, exactly. So I want you to think about, like, let's think about this, right? They say all the time, you hear like this, though, yo, this system is broken. It's not broken. This system is designed to get the results that it gets. If you want different results, then you must change the system, right? You think about, you know, if you're playing basketball, right? If you're a fast break, if you going small ball, right, and you getting bullied in the middle with a big team, but you decided, like the coach said, we're gonna go small, we're gonna just start everybody under 6'1" because we want to try to outrun everybody, and then you get some big dogs, and now they just posting you up. That system, now you're losing. Now that system that you have was designed to get the results that it's getting when it comes to this opposing factor, right? So when it comes to our system in education, when it comes to, like, for example, mathematically in California, if I got every student to be eligible at my school to go to college, let's say in hypothetically in California, we got every high school have a 100% graduation rate, which that's what they want. Everybody's eligible for college. Mathematically, there's not even enough seats for all of the students to go to a four-year university. It's literally a pyramid in regards of Darwinism when it comes to schools. So for example, we will have 100,000 kids start in kinder. Then as they go to middle school, some kids drop off. Then when they go to high school, more kids drop off. Then after they go to high school, some kids go to college, some kids just drop. Now you got a smaller group. It's literally a pyramid. Follow along. So when they get to university, now some more kids drop off for other reasons. And now after all that 100,000 kids that started who finished college, you may have had a good 20,000, right? And then out of that 20,000, how many of them have debt? So now we look at over the last 20 years, right? The wealth gap has not been touched at all. We've got more college graduates ever. We have more high school, the increase in height, but the wealth gap has not changed. You have to ask yourself, why is that the case? Because this system is designed to get the results that it's getting. So that's been our theory, and that's why we change the system in which we operate our school. Because when I was opening a school, why would I open a school that's similar to everything that's happening around me? Because I know what the system is doing. So within the system, I try to do the best I can to revolutionize it by doing something completely different that's opposed. And look, we're still getting the results. So that's where we're at. And that's the theory behind it.
Excellent. I wanted you to expound on that because I talk about things like that often. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No doubt. No doubt.
Omar, do you have a question, Omar?
Yes, I do. And good to see you again. Sorry, my camera's off.
Tell them who you are.
I'm your son, and Amin is my brother. And I'm in Colorado, president of the Aurora branch of the NAACP and director of equity, culture, and community engagement for Cherry Creek School District in Aurora, Colorado. And you may have answered this question. I missed the first 5 minutes driving home, but I heard you about your philosophy about love and things of this nature. How do you get your staff and your teachers to buy into this philosophy? And what is your process in recruiting people that are that can embrace the culture that you have at your school so that the kids can be successful?
Absolutely. So the hiring process is different, right? So like if I go back to the initial, my initial theory, if I believe systems are designed to get the results that they get, one of the big parts of the system is how we hire and how we recruit the people to be in front of young people. So my hiring process traditionally, when schools are looking at educators, they're asking them about, your pedagogy and how you teach and this. I'm asking you questions around 3 major things. One is trying to figure out how much humility you have. And when I say humility like that, being humble is important, is because I want you to be confident. I want you to be talented. I want you to be all those great things, but I want to be able to understand, are you reflective to understand that I'm still, no matter how great I am, I'm continuously learning, right? And I'm continuously being able to reflect, and I'm able to have feedback from the principal or anyone, their peer, to be like, oh man, I can get better at this. Because I sit here as an author, I don't know it all. I don't know, but that's the beauty of, for me, I can sit here and say, I don't know it all, but I'm gonna find somebody that do know it all, right? Or do know what I'm looking for. So I want them to be resourceful. And in order for you to be resourceful, I feel you need to be humble. Next is, I'm trying to figure out how hungry they are. How motivated are you to work in Watts, and specifically my school? Because many a times you'll get some new teachers right now. You ask them, well, why you want to work here? And they'll give you an answer. Well, I always wanted to be a teacher, and right now I'm looking for a position. No, that's not. No, I want to know specifically, why do you want to work at my school with my kids in my community? Right. And if you can't answer that with something that's passionate, then that's not somebody we want in front of our young people, because this work is hard and our young people need all of you. Then the next thing is, how smart are they? And when I say smart, it's not about with IQ score or if, you know, their content. It's about interpersonal relationships. How are they psychoanalyzing their relationships with kids? How are they being able to see the nuance in interpersonal relationships so they can leverage those relationships to get students and to get their peers or get their colleagues to get to our mission and our vision. So those three buckets, we're asking about, you know, questions. You'll hear questions in our interview about, you know, what is the last time you had a dream, or what are you pursuing? What do your friends describe you as? What is your hobbies? What are your passions? And how do you describe how you will bring your passions into our school? Because that's one thing that's always been suppressed in school, right? Especially for educators of color. We always felt we had to code switch, right? Like when I was a teacher, I went to this code switching phase where, you know, I'm an entrepreneur outside of work. And then when I come to work, I'm Mr. Raw, and I can't let nobody know that, you know, I'm a business owner. I'm reading, I'm coming up with different things. I'm into real estate, I'm into cryptocurrency, I'm in all these different things. But those are exactly what young people need to hear. Those are exactly the process. So we try to reverse engineer that and bring that in. So this process is really about that. And then we put our teachers in positions to win. So when we have these kind of conversations, Omar, it's really about building a relationship in a small period of time. And then once they feel that, they get invested because we don't play no games. They can feel the energy that we are centered around young people. And it'll be clearly evident if you walk in our buildings and you're not about young people, you will stick out like a sore thumb.
Cherie, you have any question?
No, it's more like a comment. I wanted to commend you for everything that you've accomplished and everything that you're doing. And I wish that they had principals like you when I was in school, and continue, you know, keep up the good work.
I appreciate
All
you.
right,
I appreciate you.
What about you, Brother Hood?
Hey man, great work you're doing. Man, excellent.
Appreciate it.
Man,
Appreciate
keep doing it, man. Keep it up, man. Man.
You have any questions?
I wanted to ask one question though. I have one question. When you started out, what was probably one of the biggest challenges that that you didn't anticipate when it came to the curriculum and the standards? Because I heard you say there are, you know, there's of course there's limitations, but you got a little more leverage as an independent school. But what are some of those things?
So, you know, it's funny you ask because, you know, my school right now is a district school. We're part of LAUSD, right? And my team, I have a nonprofit, Compton Legacy, which they're working and they're developing. We're developing curriculum, and we're developing a pathway to open up an independent school that'd be self-sufficient, not a charter school, not a private school, but a fully self-sufficient independent school. The reason why is because it's important. For example, it's funny because you asked that. When it comes to curriculum, like this book right here, I talk about this book a lot. This is a state adopted text by McGraw-Hill. That is, and when I say state adopted, how this works is McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Cengage, these big billion-dollar book companies get their books to be state adopted through legislation. They go through the process and it's rigorous and they become state adopted texts. This book, this is the 9th edition of the book. This book is for Black history in high school, and it's also used as a resource for US history. For many times, this is the first time that Black students are introduced through curriculum, true curriculum that's state adopted in high school in 11th grade. Now, think about this. I'll put this clip closer. The title of this book introduces their history from slavery to freedom. That's problematic. But this is a limited options that school leaders have when it comes to getting curriculum for US history. Now, do my teachers use this? No, right? Many educators who are doing this work don't even use the core textbook. They get supplemental resources. They get supplemental curriculum. But by policy, the state adopted text in districts, they still have to purchase these. They still have to have inventory, right? So any real historian will know that if you look at any other culture, how they're introduced to natural curriculum, you hear about Chinese, you will hear about the Yang dynasty, you will hear about the empires. When you hear about you'll hear about the Roman Empire, you'll hear about the kingdoms in Europe, you'll hear about these are how other cultures are introduced about empires. Why is it that when Africans in America are introduced, they're introduced from slavery? Not pre-colonial where empires were existing and civilization with mathematics and geometry existed. So that's a point of reference that I say that that's something that was an awakening and a reawakening and a constant struggle of the existing reality when it comes to the hierarchy in which we need to give more core curriculum that is evident when it comes to sacred knowledge in our schools. So being creative around that has been a challenge because we have to kind of just navigate that and play around how we're going to like work that in. But that's been a challenge. Another challenge I would say during my journey is accepting my authentic self and suppressing, surrendering the outcome. I wrote that in my book. That was probably the challenge that I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stop with this trying to be who I think somebody want me to be, being somebody else version of Mr. Rahh or Principal Rahh. I'm gonna be me. And if I'm not good enough, then I'm gonna be okay with that. But I think I'm pretty good at what I do, and I want to be my full authentic self. I'm no longer gonna hide that I own several businesses. I'm no longer gonna hide that I'm no longer gonna hide, my kids come to my school, my wife come to my school. I'm no longer gonna hide that. I'm no longer gonna hide that I wear a hat that say Compton on it, and I'm gonna say it with pride, So I'm no longer gonna hide that I love shoes. My father knows I love shoes. I'm gonna wear my shoes. I'm gonna wear my kicks with my suit, right? So I'm no longer. So that was probably my challenge when I surrendered the outcome, and I said, "This is who I am, and this is what's going to have to be accepted in this space." I think that was probably a challenge that I had to battle internally.
All right. What about Ms. Moore? You have any questions?
No, I'm just listening. I'm the same thing. I feel the same way as Principal Rahh, is that you have to develop relationships. I kind of came in late.
Wait just a minute, Ms. Moore. Tell them who you are, please.
Hi, I'm Miss Moore. I'm a counselor at Dominguez High School, Compton Unified School District.
How you doing,
And I'm fine. And I also I've been a BSU advisor for years.
Nice.
Whatever to do with Black students, I try to take part in, just to show them that I'm there to support them and I'm not afraid to support them. And that's what I see in most of the schools, that it's only one or two people willing. We have a lot of Black educators in Compton, but only one or two is willing to step up and say, I support you. And I don't understand that. Everybody, they'll come to me and say, oh, great job, but they just don't step up, and I don't understand that. But again, what you were saying about relationships, that's what our students need. They need to feel like they're human, to come up and say, hi, how you doing? How was your day? They like respect too. So I try to do all of that for them, and they respond to me pretty good.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, your father was my mentor at Cal State Long Beach. So he mentored a lot of students, and we came out pretty good.
You must be kind.
I want to say this, Ms. Moore, and thank you for the work that you're doing, right? And that's some of the, I work with principals across the nation talking about what you described, right? Is, Black student unions on not even, predominantly white campus, but in general, is a way that, we try to create a safe space. We're trying to create a safe space for support and trying to build a pipeline for young Black students. And really, like, what we found to be really powerful is that the Black Student Union still works in isolation, and it still has conflict with the overall macro philosophy of the institution, right? So you will find yourself, one or two people one or two people doing this work that's passionate about this work, and you get exhausted and battle fatigue sets in, and you'll be in that professional development meeting like, why aren't we talking about this? It is because they're doing equity detours, right? And I think it's important, and that's what the work we're about is like, no, this philosophy need to be centered around Black students, because when Black students are successful, everyone else is as well. And I just want to commend you, Ms. Moore, because I know this work is not hard. This work is very hard. Sorry, this work is very hard, and doing it at a high level is even harder. And doing it feeling like you're one or two people, it's even harder. So I just wanted to say that and bring that publicly, Ms. Moore, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good.
To you as well.
Anthony Perry, tell us who you are and do you have any questions? Are you on, Anthony? Can you unmute?
Yes. Hello, how are you? Thank you. I'm Anthony Perry. I'm actually the chairman of the Black Parent Advisory Committee in the district here in Compton. And I have two children that are in school that go to Jefferson Elementary in the 3rd and 5th grades.
Mm.
And I just love to hear Principal Rahh, love hearing how you open to being who you are, and the students and your peers and the community see who you are, and that's very important, especially with so much peer pressure that is going on with our kids, especially in high school. I know Ms. Moore see a lot of that. So it's very, very important. And also, I like what you said that, and I've said that if we focus on our Black children, that's bringing us up. That's going to bring up everybody, because and I tell people, based on the state of California Department of Education, our Black children are overwhelmingly performing lower than every student. Don't matter, pick a race, we're at the bottom. Yeah. So if we uplift our Black children, we're going to uplift every student. That's just basic, business. You bring up the bottom, you push everybody else up. So yeah, definitely, I definitely appreciate those comments, and we definitely need more men and brothers and pioneers like yourself.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that, Brother Perry. And you're 1000% correct. And I think when you're talking about doing this work, you're going when you start focusing on Black children at a macro level, that's when the challenge happens, right? Because now you're doing the work that's the real work, right? That's when you're centering. That's where equity is. Like we define equity at my school is the redistribution of access and resources to the students who most need it, right?
Yeah.
And if we center it around that, you got to ask schools, well, who most need the support? And it's the methodology, Brother Perry, because I think a lot of times, people want well, but the methodology towards getting the results are sometimes harmful practices towards those results. And that's evident when, like, for example, I just had an experience with a Black parent that called me because I give supports and counsel to Black parents at predominantly at PWI elementary schools, right? Predominantly white institutions at elementary schools. And she said, her daughter wanted to do a project on Kobe Bryant, right? And the teacher said, like, no, we're not, we're not doing it, because it was titled Mamba Mentality. And it was like, no, they wanted her to go in a different direction, right? And that's problematic, right? That's problematic. That's something that could have led that student to being motivated, to being like, that's access, that's opportunity, that's a belief, that's culture. So thank you, Perry, for bringing that to the forefront. I think that's really important.
All right, Nabiha. Ms. Broomfield, are you there? Can you unmute?
Well, good evening, everyone.
Tell us who you are.
I am Nabiha, and I'm an educator here in Compton. And I did not hear everything because I just jumped in when Miss Moore called me. But just who I am as far as the conversation is, I would say that in addition to being an educator, my passion is parent education, to educate parents on how to navigate the system and work around the issues that were just expressed. Because if you are a parent and you know your rights and how to come back at that situation, then we can make profound changes in the system for our children. So my goal is mainly working to assist parents so that they can be advocates for their children with power and purpose.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Brother Joe Hembrick, you want to chime in and say anything?
Yes, sir. Appreciate the presentation, Brother Rahh, Principal Rahh. Been down a lot of those paths. I have a question. What is a racial makeup at your school, Black and Latino?
Yeah, so we're 72%, sorry, 68% Latinx, and then we're 32% African American.
Very great. And I was listening to your interview process on your teachers.
Yeah.
Does the district office let you be that final decision in terms of who you choose, or what's the deal with that?
So the process, like pretty much every district, they have to be eligible. So they have to go to the district to get hired through the district, and then we are able to select them. There is a unique process in which, you know, I can bring somebody in and I want them, and then I try to get the district to hire them, right? And that's another process, but typically they have to already kind of be within the district and hire within the district, and would go through the HR process, and then we're able to hire them. But I have worked with teachers who are like coming from Oakland or, you know, New York, who tried to come to the school, and I got them through the process of LAUSD.
I've been through a lot of those experiences, and I never experienced like that in Compton. Compton, they kind of send you somebody as long as they freezing, you know, back during my day. And also appreciating, you know, your student first thing, you know, and I've sat in a lot of those meetings, you know, where they talk curriculum and all this stuff, you know, but it's not really student centered. I remember one time I was at a workshop for administrators. And they started us off with this, you know, matter of fact, started us off on the slave ship. Up saying we should overcome and this and that. I'm like, and they were talking about a student self-esteem, right? And they even showed the old Bill Cosby thing where they had a white doll and the black doll, and girl choose which one to pick the white doll.
Yeah.
So I raised my hand, and you know, at that time I was doing a serious study on the Maasai. And so I raised my hand. I said, well, it's typical to see why kids have a low self-esteem of themselves, especially when you start them off in slavery. I said, why don't you start them off when, you know, when Africans ruled the world and how all these great civilizations, right?
Yeah.
Room got quiet, boy. You could hear a rat piss on cotton as one of my coaches. And so the days after that, I kept raising my hand. Can you figure out how many times they called on me again?
They didn't go back, huh?
0.
Yep.
They, you know, it's kind of designed for it to fail. But I found, you know, like when you get those kids turned on, especially when, you know, when their Maslow things have been satisfied, you know, the shelter, all this and that. Because, you know, working, you know, I was at Centennial for like 20 years. You know, we got homeless kids, we got kids couldn't take showers, you know, they didn't have no hot water, so a kid couldn't take a shower at school.
Yeah.
Homeless kids, and we had this barber kid on campus, and I used to let him cut hair in the gym, you know, as long as he swept it up so he can get his hustle on.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer in the students knowing all these various aspects of life. You know, you saying you're entrepreneur, you're this, you're that. Kids need to know that.
Yep.
You know, you're just not a teacher. I used to
Yeah.
teach them about property ownership. And matter of fact, it was interesting you said gardening. So you have some kind of a vegetable garden thing going on at your school now?
Yeah, so this year, well, of course, we was in a pandemic for the last year and a half, but the Clippers provide us with a garden. So one of our goals is to create a farmer's market from our garden, in which our students start to create. But it's also like in our community, our schools claim that they're community schools, but they're really not, because they don't really center the community. And there's a difference between a school that operates in a community and a school that operates with the community, right? Like a lot of schools are operating within a community and trying to operate for the community, where the belief should be a community school works with the community and things are open for the community and it's promoted. Like one of our metrics is how many times a metrics we need to get 5 community events from nonprofits from our community that's housed on our school. Like that's a metric, because that means that we have to now build relationships, have dialogue, strategically plan on how we can get events on our school and work with them. And then for us to also go out to events to work with them and how we can enhance their work. Also, I also believe that schools should reinvest with money to these organizations. A lot of times schools will look for USC, Harvard, Columbia to come in and try to help the situation. They can't help you. They're coming in and gonna tell you all the problems. You're gonna give them $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, where you could have been centering the community, centering nonprofit organizations, centering people that got their boots to the ground doing this work, and get them the contract. Because when you do that, they're going to do more. They're going to deliver more. And that's what we've done, right? And that's where you truly get partnerships, because I always believe if you want to know a priority of the school, you look at 2 things: how they spend their time, meaning like if you say you're a community school, well, how much time you spend in the community? And then the second thing is how they spend their money. If you say you're a community school, well, how much money you spending in the community? Those 2 things will let you know a priority of the school. And to echo what you say, going back to the curriculum, it goes back to what I said. Systems are designed to get the results that they get. And I want to say this too, because I think it's important. The BI was, speaking in regards to parent education. A lot of Black students and Black families have been harmed when it goes to the K through 12 education because of lack of, like what you've experienced. Now you like, dang, do I trust this school to provide my kid with the right education I feel is right? Because they just gave me a bogus answer. So now you second guessing. Now you triggered. Now you have this discomfort and this disconnect. So now when you get to a school like mine, you still guarded. You like, man, I don't know. This Black brother may be trying to do something. So now we got to repair that. Like a lot of my school, I'm getting families, I got to repair. I got to build some trust. Because I'm letting you know, like, no, we want your babies to be here. We want them. We got a food pantry that we don't worry about that. Maslow before Bloom. I care about if you hungry, all right, we're going to get you some food. You ain't showered, don't worry about it. We're going to get you something. We're going to get you some shoes. We're going to get you everything you need. Because if you look good, you feel good, you can now work good. So, but yeah, man, it's deep, bro.
Another question, but not to cut you off, but I had a few instances as administrator and teacher where we had, the school leader was dynamic, hiring great staff, great programs going on, but they don't last long.
Yeah.
After a year or 2, as soon as stuff get rolling, they switch into another school.
Yep.
So how have you been able to stay where you are, with what you're doing?
Well, I mean, I've been offered promotions after year 1. I have no desire to be an a director, or I don't have no desire to be. I don't have that desire. They wanted to promote me to be the principal at Crenshaw, a bigger school. Luckily, because I think I have a little bit more leverage because I opened my school. Huh? Did y'all hear me now? I said I think I had a little bit more leverage because I opened my school. But to answer your question, yeah, after year 1, if I had a different mindset, I could have been out. Like after year 2, this year, there's been offerings, but I'm my philosophy and my belief is that I want a self-sufficient school because I believe a self-sufficient school is the vessel, is the bloodline, is the lifeline for a self-sufficient community. In order to have that, it takes time. It's, if I were to leave my school, I would need to have the person that's going to take over. I need to be grooming them now. You know what I mean? So the work continues because, again, going back to what I said, brother, the system is designed to you'll get a principal to do some great work. And what happens? What you said, they're gone. And then you get a new principal come in. Now ego gets in the way. Pride gets in the way. They want to shift some stuff and make their own name. Now they taking some stuff, they treating things different. Now things are not the same support. The money ain't going where it was. Now that program that was just starting to get rolling, now it falls apart because you want to bring a new program in. And now you're just finding yourself just start and stop. So
Yeah, in terms of principals, leaving, I was talking about being.
I can't hear you. What you say? What you say, brother?
Oh, I was talking about the principals kind of like being removed, not like they're being promoted or want to be promoted, the experiences I've had. But anyway, I love the gardening thing. Our kids need to be hooked up with the Neteru, and it's good that you're doing that, for Black and brown kids. Actually, I got that started at Centennial at one time. I had my PE class students clear this field area and turn the dirt over. We had a whole culture thing going. I think that's great for kids. They need that. Get their hands in the dirt instead of down there shooting dice and what have you, things like that, and fighting and all that. But that's great. I love what you're doing. Keep it rolling. And whatever I can do, I'm sure your dad can tell you the things I bring to the table. If I could help in any kind of way, just call them.
Appreciate you.
Anybody else have any other burning questions?
I have one comment, because I totally agree with what Hembrick said, but that's why I am passionate about parent engagement, because that switcheroo is always going to happen and they are always going to move people. But once the parents are empowered and understand the system, then no matter who is put in place, once they understand what to do and their power, then they can keep any program going on. So once they understand that, that's why parents are so key, because the system is going to move people. That's just the way it works. That's how it nurtures itself and keeps itself going. But the key is parents and community. We have to understand this system and not be triggered and allow those things to happen to us. That's the biggest piece that is missing, that we don't understand, is the true power of parents in directing the system and understanding it. So parent power is what's going to make these changes.
Sante for that, Nabi. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions?
I had a question for Principal Rahh.
Go ahead, Ms. Moore.
Talking about parent engagement, we all know how important that is. How do you keep your parents engaged where you are? What's some of the things that you do? Because it's a challenge.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
That's it. I just want to see what's some of the things that you do.
So the biggest thing is for me is building relationships with family. So I nurture the relationship when families come in and their 9th grade year. I ask them what works for them, but I have a mission. I have a mission to build the relationships, and I have a mission for us to work together, transactional. One part is I'm like, yo, we can get everything that you desire, but we need this from you, right? So we need you to be here for this, and I can get this. So a prime example, I get them excited around it. I'm big in marketing. So when parents come in, I got them free kind of merch. I got them free boxes. I got free different things, right? All kind of free stuff. And I'm like, all right, now listen, I want you to rock this shirt every time on Friday for us. I need you to take a, now we're in the social media, take a picture, we're gonna post it. Now they're getting excited, right? And now we're like, okay, we got this parent engagement activity, coffee with the principal. Our goal is for you to show up. We just need you to show up. Can you just show up for us and be like, this is what I need? And when the principal asks that, it hits different. And for me, I always say, you know, if I can get more parents just to be involved first, because engagement, we break it up in two things. One is, are you here? Like, are you present? And then the next level is actually knowing the power, when the Beehive said, and the action that you do, the empowerment. So first step is, I got to get you here. Many Black families, by the time they get to me in high school, they already done rolled off K-12. They already done rolled off school. They just like, look, they ninth grade. If the student is doing well, they probably like, all right, cool. I don't need to do much no more. If the student is not doing well, they're like, cool, well, he gonna figure it out or she gonna figure it out. The school gonna do what it's gonna do. Don't call me, type of thing. A lot of times I gotta nurture that relationship and say, no, we still need you here. So I always try to come up with a great community engagement with parents, and we do that weekly and monthly. I'll give you an example. One thing we do, and we still do it in high school. I still teach a class called Gentlemen to Kings, and we in February, we have all the parents come in and see like a dance with the parents. So the parents dance and they get times with the kids. And then that stuff helps with our culture around parents, while also for me being transparent. I give them a budget. So we have our Title I. I say, listen, here you go. Here's the Title I. We have to do that by LAUSD. But then through my donation account, I say, here, listen, y'all, here's $2,000. Let's figure out what we can do creatively. Can we hire some of y'all to do something on campus? Can we try to fix, and it gets them more power, it gives them feeling like, dang, I got some autonomy in this. I assure you, if you start giving parents more autonomy, more power, then I think you will get more engagement. Through my experience, when you tell them like, this is just what we're doing, and you don't provide them a voice, they're like, why am I showing up? So it's key when you have a meeting, don't just talk to parents. Why? Your goal should be having eventually parents hosting the meeting. Like the parents should be really involved. So I would ask, like, we want our parents to be involved. So our coffee with the principal, so I have a co-host with a parent. So it's really relationships. I know parents believe in me, and they really like what we're trying to do, and they're excited about the school, and they want their handprints to be on the school, but it's because of the excitement that we build around it. If the parents are not excited, if the kids are not excited, how can you get the parents excited?
That's true. Thank you.
And thanks again, Beehive. And she does a great job, her and Ms. Moore, for that district. They come with consciousness and relationship. I want to ask you, there's a lot of issues in public schools.
Yeah.
Many parents, African-American parents, and especially, in urban areas, send their kids outside the community rather than go to the community school.
Yep.
And then for a lot of reasons, they get a bad rap to school, or that they really seen other kids and they fighting and drugs, it's gang violence, and it's a challenge. And so a lot of people send their kids either to a charter school, private school, or outside the district.
Yeah.
How do you get your kids to want to come to your school? Because I know that you recruited kids.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you had a waiting list for people to get in your school.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with those outside factors that other schools say affects their ability to be efficient?
Yeah.
And you're in the heart of Watts where you have all those factors.
Yeah, I think it's two things. One is, and I want to go back to what Ms. Moore question is, because I think it's a great segue to this. This work it's like hard. Like it's really hard to recruit. It's really hard to get parent engagement. It's really hard to do all those different things. I wish it could say like, hey, this is a universal practice that, all right, this is going to guarantee work. No, it doesn't work that way. I think it's rooted in relationships, it's rooted in philosophy. But one thing I will say is rooted in, once you understand the community, then you're able to build something that is an event with partnership. So when I say like, yo, like what we did, we always do an annual pizza and pupusa night with parents, with new enrollment, with the community. And we have this community mom and pop spot that creates the pizza, and they cook the pupusas, and it's parent sponsored. Like the parents sponsor that. So the best thing for recruitment, like anything, is word of mouth. Yeah, all that glitz and glamour is great, but when another parent can go speak to another parent and say, yo, I like this school. They treat me right. I have a voice. Here's this annual event that we always have fun with. Hey, here's this family talent show where our kids are able to exhibit their work while also showing their creative performances and different things like that. That is going to spread. There's a philosophy, there's a belief that, all right, if I could take Black students out of the community, go to the Valley or go to wherever else outside of the community, that's going to give more opportunities, that's going to give more access, that's going to just provide my students with what they need. And a lot of times it's unfortunate that many Black families are left with these type of two options, right? There's one option of, do I allow my students to be in this community school where they may be hopefully getting more culture, but they have to fight these other existing realities from environment or whatever the case may be. And then, or do I take my students to this private school or this charter school that's far out? And then what they find is that school is not providing them with the cultural relevance. I have many parents that have left my school coming in ninth grade. They left. They went far out, driving 45 minutes to private schools to bring them back, because it was like they were missing that culture. They was missing that love, because the system plays on families that are desperate, and they will get you to conform to that because when you're desperate, you feel like you need to conform and do anything it takes. And that's why we have to kind of create schools that are authentically providing like high excellence and high productivity for families to flourish, but specifically Black students to flourish. And that's what we try to do. Do we have our struggles? Absolutely. I struggle tooth and nail to try to speak with more Black families that come to my school. But they like, hey, this is a small school. It's still new. They sometimes they don't like that. They like, I'd rather still go to this traditional route. So it's hard. But one thing that I'm about is I'm relentless, and I'm a firm believer. I'm my school's #1 cheerleader, and I believe a principal should be a school's #1 cheerleader. And when you do that, and you do it authentically, and you do it rooted in love, you running your best race, and you just let it be what it be, and you just continue to fight for the families and the community. Because no matter what, those kids still live in the community, and I'm gonna still say good morning to them every day as that bus is in front of my school, and try to let them know that I still love you. And when that day come, if that day ever come, we got a spot for you here. We're gonna give you high quality education.
Would you go over that house? And one was Hustle, and that was after Nipsey, I think.
Yeah.
Go over what goes on in each of those houses again.
Yeah, so each house is named after, it has a value, and is named after a prominent figure, and they have a color represented with that house. So we have the House of Friendship, which their whole purpose, and it's 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students in each house. So you have built-in mentorships in each house. I want you to think of it like almost like if you're familiar with Harry Potter, it's like that. Or if you're familiar with like fraternity, sorority, it's like that, right? So it's like a chapter house. So House of Friendship, their whole purpose is to spread love and compassion and to be critical friends of everyone on campus. Because there's a high rate of suicidal ideation, there's a high rate of cyberbullying and bullying on campus. So we wanted to make sure that we were preventative and having a group of students that was their mission. And then we have teachers that's in that house, and they help young people come up with different activities on campus, different ways to form that relationship. And they're named after Michelle Obama. So they're called the House of Obama. Then we have the House of Advocacy, and their whole 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, their whole purpose is to be able to coach their peers in like how to find their passion. If it's in being civically engaged, if it's in financial literacy, if it's in real estate, if it's in it's the consciousness of industry, right? So they're all about how we can get you to speak up and speak out about different things that mean something to you. And that's after the House of that's the House of AOC. Then we have the House of Courage. And that house is called House of Kaepernick, after Colin Kaepernick. And we always tell young people, no matter if you like him, no matter if you don't like him, what you cannot deny is that he was courageous for what he did. So we want you to be courageous, because sometimes we want you, one of our slogans for that house is, we want you to be bold, be courageous, and be revolutionary. And that's one of the house mantras that they have. And then we have the House of Motivation. And their whole message is to motivate students to come to school every day, do the best that they can, be focused on themselves, self-actualize. And that is after Nipsey Hussle. And we call that the House of Hustle, because Nipsey Hussle, he always talked about the marathon concept, meaning that no matter what you decide in life, hop on this marathon. You got to run these laps and be focused on what you're doing. So those are the 4 houses. And at the end of the year, these houses compete. They get metric points, and we got a 7-foot trophy, and we call it the baddest house. The baddest house is the house that done everything well. They from our rubric, they did everything well, and they get bragging rights with the 7-foot trophy and like an awesome field day.
That's excellent. Any more questions?
Yes, I have a question. Now, Principal Rahh, you have a large Hispanic population at the school. How do you bridge the two different races or the cultures?
You know, we just move. What I found that is when we move and operate in a place that's rooted in love. So we found that our young people are just connecting, because when we do family, the whole point is everybody connecting with each other. Like, so they're forced to connect because the way our school is structured, you know. So because we have family every Monday and we force them to go meet new people, and we're a small school and everybody feels like somebody, now we connecting with people in their kinship. They're forced to connect with people. I teach a class, so all the students, no matter if you're Black, Latinx, if you struggling, we call them VIPs on our campus. We call very important pupil. They come to me, and I teach a leadership class 1 day a week, where I work with building them relationships so they can work with each other. So an alternative to suspension may be like, hey, y'all two got a project. Y'all gonna learn stocks today, and y'all gotta work together, instead of sending y'all both home for arguing in the class, right? Like, y'all gotta, all right, y'all gonna help me with this project real quick. I need y'all both to sell candy, and I need y'all to figure out together what's like, how much money did we make off of it? Like, so those are the type of things that we do. And our house system, each house has to create opportunities. For example, we celebrate all the performative stuff when it comes to Latin Heritage Month, Black History Month, and they have to work together. So honestly, man, it hasn't been nothing that we've really had to, like, it's just like it's out of love, and everybody is kind of like connected. It's kind of weird, man. So I don't think we're not going into this. I think I would say this. There was this issue that happened our first year. We have a police science class, and in the police science class, they were going over the anti-Blackness when it comes to how policing is done in schools. And they showed this video. He showed this video of a young a police officer who drugged a young Black student, and the students had to psychoanalyze why do you think the police officer reacted in that way, and had his conscience. And it was a young Latinx student who laughed, and when the video was done, like when the video happened, she laughed like that. And there was some Black female students of mine that was like, hey, yo, whoa, like they checked her, right? And it got intense. So she started to cry, and she started like, well, I didn't mean it like that, different things like that. And they were like, oh, you racist for that, you racist for that. But we came together, and we had like, hey, let's discuss, let's communicate. How did you feel when she like laughed at that? So they was able to express that. And then she was able to see like, man, like, damn, that's not what I meant. And I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Her older sister came in and we had to have a discussion around that. And she felt like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get jumped by these girls. And it was like, they had to like, no, we not, just don't do that. Like, because we dealing, so we had conversations around that. And then afterwards, because I'm a practitioner of restorative practices, they had to chop it up, but they also in the same house. They're in kinship with each other. So now they're forced to work with each other even after that, right? And that was probably like the biggest tension we've had, like with racial demographics. And I don't know if he was going there, but that's been the biggest tension we had because, yeah, we even got people from rival gangs, but for some reason, like they haven't been prevalent. And take in mind, I want to say this is a preface. Our school has now been virtual longer than we have been in existence when it comes to in person. So all this data is from a year and a half of in-person learning.
Okay, that's excellent. It looked like you're setting up a next level because we live in this color construct, but look like you're setting it up where we're moving beyond that and headed towards humanity. So that's excellent. Now I wanted you to respond to this something that I got out the book.
Yeah.
And I think it's on the back of the book too. It says break the school to prison pipeline by shifting your school's focus from reactive to proactive support.
Yep.
I think that's excellent. Can you expound on that?
Yeah. So example on how I showed you like how we structure it, family, kinship, our house system. That's so I want you to imagine when you coming in, if you're a freshman, you come into the school, you're being welcomed when you gotta spin our wheel to get selected in your house. When you spin the wheel, so imagine a big wheel you got to spin. You just say you come into, let's say brother Avery, brother Perry is coming to our school as a 9th grader. He's coming to our 9th grade summer bridge. He's learning about it. He's met with representatives from each, we call them the hype squad. We got the hype squad from each house. Their whole mission is to get kids and get people hyped about their house. So during the summer bridge for a week, he's met with 12th graders, 11th graders, and 10th graders, part of the hype squad from the house. So he's seeing them in their shirts. He's going, he's learning. They're talking about the house. Then on Friday, he got to spin the wheel. He spin the wheel, boom, it lands in House of Hustle. The hype squad, like, yeah, you want House of Hustle? Welcome to our house. Here's your shirt. This is preventative. This is like, man, I'm already part of something, right? So this is proactive. This versus a traditionally, some schools don't even have summer bridge, but if they did, it's more like, hey, you need to learn this reading, you need to learn this math. They're not worried about a sense of belonging. They feel that, well, you selected to come here, so you should just naturally belong here or try to join a club. You know, hey, here's the clubs that we offer, but it's not met with students. You know, and then they wait to have a club day, like in 3 weeks school has passed, while that freshman is certain way. And then guess what? They never get involved with anything. So now they're in 10th grade, they're still not involved with anything. And then when they get in an argument with somebody, they're not involved. There's no sense of belonging. So I can fight on campus and you're not repairing anything because nothing was never built. So proactive means we want to build something so when something does happen, we can repair it. If you never build something, how can you expect to repair it or to restore it? So that's kind of like then that's how you break the school to prison pipeline, because the school to prison pipeline is a traditional process in which you traditionally have a progressive discipline model with no sense of belonging, where you say, hey, you talk to my classroom, that's a warning. Okay, you go to the office, you got these measures, stay on that line, do this, structure. And then once students start getting used to those consequences, then they lose some critical hope, and then they learn to live in the means of those circumstances in that environment. And that's like the prison industrial complex.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.
No doubt.
Well, Rashaki, we didn't kept him long enough. He got work in the morning, principal, working out and doing things. And he blessed me with a new grandchild named Amin Prince Rahh, and we call him Prince. And so, and he keeps him up all night. He sleeps all day, Prince does, and then he wakes up at night. We want to thank everyone who has chimed in or zoomed in hope that you can get information, or if you want to continue a dialogue with Principal Rahh, just leave your email in the chat, and Rashaki will forward to Amen, and he'll get back to you. Or either you can check with me. Mostly Nabiha is one of my wife's good friends, and Miss Moore, I think I spoke at Cal Dominguez. She had the Black graduation, Dominguez, 1 year, and I spoke. And so they know how to contact. Joe, do you have any closing remarks?
I just wanted to, tell the principal I love that part of his book where he was always reflecting on certain, things that that were trying to be implemented. I love that, and I love to see you with the megaphone out on the ground. Administrators got to be out there to see what's going on instead of sitting up in the office eating chicken wings and doing paperwork. You got to get out there so the kids know who you are and whatnot. And I just want to say this to him about his Black and Latino thing. If you go up to Centennial on the 40s row on the grass side, I had something painted up there. I'd like for you to go look at that and see if you can implement that in your school. I had an Egyptian pyramid and an Aztec pyramid with a black hand and brown hand coming out embracing. And on both sides, I had different figures, Olmec head, all type of, gods and goddesses and whatnot to help out our history thing to try to bridge that, gap between the Black and Latino. But go over there and look at that and see if that can help out your program on your wall somewhere at your site. But
Nice.
Great presentation, loved it, and keep on pushing, brother.
Appreciate you.
And we would like to get any ideas from any of you listening on subjects that you want us to cover. And if you would like to make a presentation on the Conscious Corner. And Rashaki, would you tell them what's coming on this Wednesday? We're on Mondays. We're Conscious Corner, and on Wednesdays we're Mental Awaken. And the model is each one teach one. So Rashaki, would you like to tell them what's coming on this Wednesday?
Okay, the CEN show on Wednesday, we got Peter Rogers. The topic is Twice as Hard, They Gonna Cut It. So that should be very interesting. Wednesday, the 30th at 6 p.m. And Professor Rod, do you guys have anything set up for next Monday?
No, I'll talk to Joe and we'll see who we're gonna roll with. And I'll get with you by tomorrow afternoon.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Professor Rod, I say each one teach one, and you said we're at the right place at the right time. So that could be a good theme. Okay.
All right, brother.
So you want to repeat that?
Yeah. Well, it was an old saying I got from Khalid Muhammad, Brother Harold X at that time, and he was getting ready to give a lecture. He said to the people, no, I think it was at the Culture Center. We said, if, for the people that's coming in, you look like you're looking for the truth. And I can tell by your face you want the truth. So you're in the right place at the right time, because you ain't gonna get nothing but the truth. And and so I sort of adopt that commentary sometimes when I give lectures, and check up from the neck up. A whole concept about using your head. The head come out first. You're a breech baby, and your head go out front when you crawl, and then when you stand up, your head's on top. That's using your head. And so there's a lot of folklore, as Brother Henrik brings out, within our history, within our culture, looking deep within for answers and solutions, and being brave enough to do it. And what I really commend our men, Principal Rahh, is turning his school into a place where kids look forward to it. And he made this point that, this year, these kids had to go through a pandemic. They had to go, what were those three things you had brought out the other day that,
Yeah, so for my school specifically, I mean, my students, the first year we experienced the LAUSD strike. I don't know if you remember, it was a couple years ago. First year they had the LAUSD strike. Then the next year we had staff death. Then there was the pandemic. Then a whole year of virtual learning. And now our seniors graduated, right? So they never had a full normal year, right? And now I'm going back to a school that we're coming back. And I always tell this to like high schools and schools in general, but specifically high schools and middle school, secondary. More than 3/4 of your school is brand new to the campus. If your ninth graders, if they came, 2 years ago, they were there and they were only there for about a half a year. Then they were on a pandemic. And then they had this last year when they were in 10th grade. Now they're in 11th grade, right? So they've been with the ninth graders that you had are now 11th grade. The ninth graders who came in, last year, they had a whole year virtual and they're now in 10th grade. And now you're getting a whole new group that's coming in now. So essentially, school leaders across the nation, for the most part, are restarting a brand new school with new people that have never been on the campus for a long period of time. So culture is going to be important.
All right. Okay, Rashiki. And we may bring Amin back to discuss Bitcoin and investments, because he's deep into all of that.
Yeah.
And teaching students about economic investments and buying stocks and all of that in his curriculum and in his leadership classes.
All right.
So, all right then.
All right.
And thanks, Brother Perry, Brother Sister Nabiha, Sister Moore, and Cherie. We really appreciate y'all chiming in. Brother Perry, we'd like to get some more insight from you on parenting and the role of parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I put my email in the chat.
Okay. We will want to deal with, I used to be on the school board in Compton. At one time, I remember Nabiha could talk about it. They had a parent center. I don't know if they still have it. But we need to discuss parenting, and maybe we'll be in contact with you to talk about parents' role in the education of their kids.
All right, Pop. All right, y'all. Thanks for having. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Conscious Corner, everybody. Good evening.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.